parcel, which is in the east side of PA. And you'll see that the top portion of that parcel is developed and the bottom portion of that parcel is undeveloped. Recently, that parcel has been split into two so that the developed parcel has its own tax parcel ID number and the undeveloped has its own parcel ID number. What these resolutions do is remove the undeveloped parcel from the TIF pledge that supports the region's bonds, thereby making future TIF from the undeveloped parcel available to pledge for a future bond issuance, which may help facilitate the development of that undeveloped parcel. Now, in order to do that, we had to reach out to regions to see if they were agreeable to removing a piece of collateral from the security of the bonds. And their position was, and our argument was, this is not currently producing any TIF. It didn't produce TIF in your underwriting of the bonds. Would you allow us to remove that? And they're a good partner with the city, and they said yes. So the steps would be if these resolutions are approved by this body, we would then take these to Regents, who has reviewed these resolutions and signed off on them and said, well, if adopted, we will agree to consent. So that any TIF generated from that undeveloped parcel would be available for future bond issuance if this body were to do that. I don't have a bond resolution for you now, but I think it's anticipated by the city that there would be in the future.
Any questions for that?
So have they agreed preliminary with the resolution, or?
They have agreed not only to the concept of removing this parcel, but the region's legal counsel and your legal counsel, Mr. Watson, have reviewed and signed off on the form and structure of this resolution.
Okay.
Let me just say that the one thing that Regents did request was that to the extent they carved this parcel out from their existing bonds, that if we were to issue new bonds that were supported by this, that they would have a subordinate pledge to the undeveloped. And so you'll see a reference in there that this TIF is available for a pledge, but to the extent there's anything left over, it would go to the prior bonds.
Gotcha.
Any questions, comments? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2022-04?
So motion.
Mr. Harris. I'll second that. Mr. Hoover. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Approved 5-0. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2022-05? Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2022-06? Motion by Mr. Campbell. Second by Mr. Hoover. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2022-07? So moved. Motion by Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. Moe. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0. Thank you. Resolution number 2022-08, a resolution approving an application for property tax deductions for certain real property located within the east side of the economic development area, 1173 Airport Parkway, LLC.
Mr. President, I'll recuse myself from consideration of this matter.
Okay. Mr. Hoover is recused. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Eric Prime, Van Baylor Law Firm, on behalf of your petitioner. 1 second, I will share the screen. Your petitioner, 1173 Airport Parkway, LLC. We're here this afternoon to discuss some potential real property tax abatements on future buildings that are being planned in the area. This area is just west of the airport, and the parcels that we're here about this afternoon are the two with the red dots. They are part of, or this company has developed the two buildings that you can see just north on the east side of Airport Parkway, but north of the dots. Those two buildings, one is fully occupied, the other is almost fully occupied. They are generally flex office buildings. with office facades in the front and in most cases overhead doors, or at least capability of overhead doors in the rear that call to a bunch of different types of users and are proving to be really popular. So there's actually a third building in that set on the books behind, in between the lower building and the airport. All three of those, by the way, did receive 10-year real property tax abatements, and those have proven beneficial to attract tenants. With regard to the red dots, there will be 3 more buildings, so now we'll be talking about a total of 6 that would be held and operated by this company. This is the site plan. I'm going to toggle back real quick so you can just see where we're talking about. So red dot on the right is 1 building, red dot on the left, that parcel is larger, would be 2 buildings. So that's what the concept is. And so we have building A, building B, that's on the left side of the diagram. A is the top building going east to west oriented. B is the further south building, and then C is the building across the way adjacent to the airport. These would be built in that order. And we are, just to give you an idea, these are renderings of the actual the buildings that are actually out there now. And they would be contemplating doing something similar. They're finding that this market is very robust for this type of use. The second building that's mostly occupied has brought in 3 tenants who, none of whom were in Greenwood prior to this. They're all new to the area, bringing in new AD, new employees. One is an advanced rescue solutions company. They do first responder training. They're actually using this facility as a training site for that purpose. Another is MGZ International. It's a grocery wholesaler facility. And then Full Circle Fitness is just what it sounds like. It's a CrossFit type fitness facility. So you get a mix of folks. And as I said, at least in those cases, those are all businesses that are new to Greenwood, which is, I think, an attractive thing for the RDC to consider. And for example, the Advanced Rescue Group came from Wayne Township in Marion County. So the abatements that we're seeking are stair step descending. We're not asking for 10 years on any of these. We are asking for a 4-3-2 descending deal. So the A building, the building that was on the upper left, would be built first. We're seeking a 4-year abatement for that building. Then the B building would come next, seeking a 3-year abatement for that. And then the C building, we're seeking a 2-year abatement. The purpose for that is that obviously it helps us in the order that these buildings are being built. The construction materials and construction costs are at peak craziness right now, and so having a little bit longer abatement on the newer or sooner to be built buildings makes sense. And then we're counting on a little bit of a market correction and hoping that by the time we get ready to build building C, that we can be that 2-year abatement makes sense. The point in asking for an abatement at all is just simply that we've had so much success with the 10-year and having those be a tenant attractor, because we can offer more competitive square footage rental rates. And the other issue here is not only as a tenant attractor, but in this neck of the woods, just south of County Line Road, we as a landlord are competing with Southern Marion County. And for whatever reason, rent rates are just depressed there, or substantially lower. It's a different ballgame once you get north of County Line Road. These abatements help us to be competitive in that market, and that is a market we've got to deal with. Certainly, if these buildings were further south, on the south side of town, it would be a different story. But where they sit, it really does come into that arc and into that area where we need to be cognizant of what is going on just to the north of us. So that is, in a nutshell, and I'm happy to drill down and talk about the specific numbers if you wish. I've got for you. This is the 4-year abatement on building A. Essentially, your current annual real estate taxes are $118 on what is currently ag ground on both of these parcels are currently taxed that way. Projected annual real estate taxes once these buildings are built jump up to $66,762. And with the abatement, you would be abating on this building over that 4-year period, $152,475, but the taxpayer would be paying $114,573 versus the $118 a year that you're getting now. So even with the abatement, it's a substantial boon for the city and for the AP. And again, helps us be competitive in the market and attract new ones.
Yeah, so in your application, do you have an estimate of like jobs that might be created by the existence of these buildings?
If we did, it would be pure speculation. I can tell you that I have the numbers for the current tenants that just came into that second building. The Advanced Rescue Solutions folks have a total of 43 employees, although most of those are at other facilities, but typically they will have 12 instructors at the location. Those training classes, though, hold up to 30 people at a time. Many of those traveling from out of state and stay in hotels and eat at the restaurants. So it's a good attractor for that type of thing. The grocery wholesaler is 3 employees because it's mostly a logistics setup. Fitness company has 2 to 3 employees on site at a time. They run classes throughout the day and have various fitness instructors there. But otherwise, on the buildings not yet built, it would be difficult for me to say. I think it's safe to say it would be users like that. You can expect in these spaces, a lot of times you get plumbing contractors or flooring contractors who want the front space for either office or showroom, and then they have the doors behind to do storage and moving of products. So those are the types of users we would expect to be in there.
Thanks.
I have a question. The building, the parcel that's on the west side, just to the west of it is residential area, which is not true of any of the other buildings y'all have done. Do y'all have any plans for buffer between that parcel and those residential homes, or?
Will be required per the UDO to do certain buffering. There are mounting and other landscaping requirements that your UDO requires when you have a industrial, commercial, against residential. So we will certainly follow the ordinance in that regard.
Do the neighbors know that's coming? Possibly.
I think they expect that corridor to continue to develop the way it has, because it's likely that Airport Parkway will eventually be extended all the way through to Open Barrel, and that area will all get developed in some respect, either businesses that are adjunct to the airport or other uses. And a lot of that's floodplain. If you get further south, well, you can see the creek going through there. If you get further south, there's going to be a huge natural buffer between the development area and the residential because it's all floodplain and floodway. So it's a lot of that ground is undevelopable.
I feel like the last projects around the airport, the original one, they came back and actually wanted a bigger building. Does anybody recall that?
That's correct.
Yeah.
The parcel that he's building on here, they came back and asked for a larger one last year.
Anything else? Commissioners? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2208?
Motion.
Mr. Harris, second, Mr. Campbell. Any discussion from the commission? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0.
Wait,
Oh, sorry, 4-0, 1 recusal. Yep, thank you for refreshing.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, various projects annual report from Senate project.
Yeah, to speak to that, we earlier, a month or 2 ago, talked about this and gave the first folks an opportunity to submit a revised annual report and waive the oral in-person report. We received a written report, it just came in today. I have not been able to review and verify whether it's covered everything. I would suggest at this point that we bump it for another month and give us an opportunity to review it.
And if it doesn't look good to you, might as well just invite him to the next meeting, because. Nothing under old business, capital project reports, Horseville Road Sports Complex project.
So this is a project that talked about a lot of different forms. Going back, I guess, even to when we paid half of the amount for the parcel when Amanda was helping coordinate the Horseville Road line of the original intersection with the state. And then morphed into an opportunity for kind of a game-changing recreation and park facility for southeast side of Greenwood. So this is the current, or close to current. I guess it's a little dated because it doesn't show the new elementary school, but we'll get there in a second.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want to share your screen before you
Yeah.
go further?
Sure,
The Zoom.
sure. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's an extra step we have to do.
Yeah, it's all right. So is it working now? Okay, so it's doing it. So this is an aerial of the area around the Horseville Road interchange. The parcel that the city owns stretches all along 65 and actually includes that kind of green triangle way up there by Classic Avenue. And there's a little land bridge there that allows residents from those neighborhoods to cross over there if there was anything. And then what you can't see in this area is the newly built Ray Crow Elementary School, which is having been down there quite a bit recently, a really nice school, part of the Clark Pleasant system. Here it is from the air, not that long ago, with a little bit of snow there. And if this is looking north, you can see the solar field for the new school on the left. You can see a church that has been built back there. And then a temporary crossing that we constructed to get into the site, and excess soil that we stockpiled because we needed to raise this site, and actually worked with a lot of it came from another RDC project, the ERMCO development, and coordinating with them who had to cut what we needed to fill. So the plan for the Greenwood Sports Park is really multifaceted. The first is 8, I'd say built in 2 wagon wheels, softball diamonds that will serve as a redevelop, kind of an economic development and attraction for people in Greenwood and beyond Greenwood. There's a huge need for this. Rob Taggart's here if you want to speak with him, but I know they get called by travel ball people all the time. I'm not familiar quite yet with that element of this, but the goal is to have a top of the line destination for travel ball tournaments across these 8 diamonds. This is facilitated by the fact that we've already entered into back here. interlocal agreements with the school and the church to help create the roads to get to the parcel and for overflow parking. And so with the proximity to the Wurstville Road Interstate, also a project for this commission, the access couldn't be easy. You can see it right off at the interstate. You'll be able to see it from the interstate. And again, I am not as familiar, but the immediately adjacent sites for baseball / softball at the youth level are lacking, I would say, and dated. If this sounds familiar to something that we may have done in, what was it, 2012, with the lack of outdoor pools, we are simply trying to build upon a pattern of economic development, success, and quality of life, which is build top tier amenities that drive real value and drive visitors, and then also increase the likelihood of people and talent of locating here. This commission in the city, through the city council and the mayor's office, has done this first with Freedom Springs, also with Old City Park, redevelopment of the community center. The field house opens anytime here very soon, which I think will set an even new bar on this. And we continue to follow that path of success with the softball, baseball side of this park. On the north end of the park, we take some of the lessons we've learned from Old City Park and City Center Park and create a top-notch, accessible playground and splash pad. Something that we have heard from residents who love it in Old Town. They have this. This allows us to have this sort of community regional centerpiece on the south and eastern side, where housing development is starting to move further and further east away from Old Town. This will have another tower. You can. It's just behind the. Unfortunately, it's behind the names there. Podium, but it's another tower built by the same company who did the Old City Park Tower. And what's cool about this one is you'll be able to see it from 65, as well as the top of those ball diamonds. The splash pad takes a more modern theme than the one in Old Town, but it's been some years now since we built it, and will allow folks to have that sort of summer entertainment. All of this is on the north side of the park, so it connects via trail system essentially up to those neighborhoods. We've got South Lake, yeah, South, what is it? Greenwood Station. Greenwood Station, yeah, Greenwood Station, sorry, I get turned around right over there. But it connects to Greenwood Station and will allow people to park there and walk into that side. So you just heard two relevant things from this. The first was the bonds for $9 million. We are asking to appropriate 8.8 of that. And the low bid on the contract came in at $10,050,000. Again, this has taken a while to design, taken a while to get permits, and things more expensive. However, through the Parks Department and some of the general obligation bonds that have been paying for the initial dirt removal, they will hit that gap. And so what we're asking is for the commission to approve $8.8 million from the fund to enter into the contract with the Wurstville Sports Park, the Greenwood Sports Park at Wurstville Road. Are there any questions beyond that? I'm sure there may be. I have Rob Taggart here.
Hey, can Rob speak to the demand that you guys are talking about? I'm just curious to hear that. Thanks, Rob.
I can tell you what the demand's gonna be every weekend, from as soon as it gets warm enough to play baseball until it's so freezing, you can't go outside. They will be full from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night.
Okay. You
I
go
mean,
You speak-
yeah, it's just,
You-
I know just from, I've got a kid who plays travel baseball. We're in Seymour, we're in Columbus, we're at Graham Park. I mean, it's constantly filled with teams from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night.
I actually did not know Mr. Hopper's kids played before I set that up, but yeah, that's what we've heard.
Thanks, Rob.
Impressive.
And it never stops either. I mean,
No, no.
baseball is, what are we in right now? Spring, so
So-
baseball is a spring sport, but even in the fall, they play.
Yeah.
So these will be
So-
fully lit fields with Robert, their artificial turf on all 8 diamonds. I just want to make it move.
Grass outfields, is it still the plan, grass outfields? Turf infields, is that still the plan?
One of the reasons we wanted to extend that playing time that Mr. Hopper was talking about, one of the components that we did add to this, we did artificial turf on the infield, and we did a hybrid of natural grass in the outfield. So in theory, regardless if you get a half an inch of rain, 30 minutes later, you're playing. So we're able to monetize the area more, be able to get more playability in the season.
And I assume there's, like most of them are, there's a concession restroom in the middle of the 4 and both.
Yeah, so in each of the wagon wheels, we'll have a concession kiosk in those. They'll be inclusive of restrooms, some recovery rooms as well, and also concessions, which will be self-performing.
And so the 8 diamonds, they all the same size, or do you have 4 set up for softball, 4 that'll handle baseball stuff, or?
They're both different sizes. There's a larger complex, is the most southern wagon wheel, as you can see probably from the side aerial. It does kind of bell shape out a little bit, so we will, again, try and maximize our footprint. The southern quad is bigger, and then the northern quad is a little bit smaller. But we will be able to play both, even on the smaller one, we'll be able to play both within an age group, both softball and baseball on each quad. And then as far as the loose equipment as well, we'll be able to put temporary fences in on the longer fields to accommodate certain age groups.
And I know softball is nuts too. I've seen that they're always out when the baseball players are out, but I mean, there are so many baseball teams that are driving all over the world in Indiana that will gladly rather come here than drive to Columbus or Seymour or Grand Park or you name it, any sports park we steal from them because of the turf. I mean,
Part of a little bit of our research, and you nailed it on the head, but if I can add to it a little bit, Satterland is really the closest one south of here, and you've got Grand Park up north, and then Center Grove was kicked around a few times as well. We just felt like we're going to create this niche here with something like this, and especially with the travel corridor with I-65, it's going to be a very desirable asset for not only Greenwood, but regionally as well.
So how does that work? Do these travel teams pay a fee? How does all that work?
Yeah, there is a program fee, there's a tournament fee.
Okay.
And we will set that structure up. Obviously, we will not set that up outside of the cost of the market. But we will make sure we do our due diligence, set that cost up, and then tournament directors will contact us. And then they will rent the facility at a tournament. And then for that weekend or for that tournament, whether it's a 4-day tournament or a 3-day tournament, and then they'll charge a gate fee for that.
City takes care of the cleanup and all that?
That's correct. Yep. And then, like I said, it's very important that we will be self-performing concessions even during those tournaments.
Right, okay.
You mentioned that you had agreed, like interlocal agreement with for the overflow parking. Now, I don't know baseball and softball, but I know soccer, and I've been to those places. And I've walked miles to fields, right? So I know the expansion of parking. A lot of these things are held on weekends, and I know particularly with that church there and the parking lot that is just to the west of the church, the bigger lot between the school and the church. Idea was that the school uses that during the week for their parking, and then the church uses it on Sunday in particular, but other days when they have events. We put a softball tournament there that runs through Sunday. They start games as early as, some of them run overnight, right? Some of these softball tournaments. how do you reconcile parking with that organization? Like on a Sunday morning, for example?
Yeah, so let's not, go back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a great question. So there is some more of a restricted parking with Redeemer as far as that agreement goes. What can't be seen on there is the church parking lot. There it is. We have all of that parking in the school. The interlocal agreement with the school that's just south of there. And then tying into that is a pedestrian bridge that goes straight from the fields onto that. as
Oh,
far as-
down south.
Correct.
By the
So
school.
we have acknowledged the challenges that's going to happen with the Redeemer and the restricted parking there on the weekends on Sunday.
Right.
So we do have over a considerable amount of parking at the school, but it's off season. And then the pedestrian leak into the park.
And a lot of those fields will actually be closer down. by
Yeah,
the
and
track.
geographically, that is closest to our southern, which will be potentially our tournament fields. That'll be our southern quad.
Whereas the vehicular connection, comes in
Up north, or the pedestrian.
just slight, very close to where that
temporary crossing.
temporary crossing is. And so for people, you can see it comes in, it's not quite showing here, but it'll come in closer to the top quad and then work, actually is shown there, and work its way over to where the parking will also be for the park that can be used all the time.
Makes sense.
So if you're a resident, and you're not,
Awesome. It's not gonna do me any good, but I'm excited for everybody else whose kids are coming up in the baseball world, softball world, so.
Grandkids.
That's right, grandkids, maybe. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. All right, so what do you need from us, Kevin?
the
$8 million.
$8.8 million.
You take a credit card.
Get out the checkbook, right?
No, but we talked about, and council took significant heed when things like FedEx and Amazon and some of the industrial and the steel point, or that's not Pointer, it's the Lion's Head and the California food manufacturer. Having institutions like that allow you to take the proceeds from those taxes and put them back in quality of life amenities that grow your city and directly benefit residents. And it's worked for us in many same ways, starting with Freedom Springs, exceptionally well. In the last day.
Exciting. You guys done a good job.
I'm sorry, I don't have any chance.
How long does it take, Rob? How long?
Yeah.
You have a timeline?
I'm sorry.
Timeline? Yeah. You're out of the timeline business now? Should be May 2031, I think is what.
I was just gonna ask you, was gonna be open before.
I heard Mr. Hopper talk about grandkids. You might-
Yeah, I like Mr. Campbell's. Will it be open before the field house? That's all. Oh, we lost our teams.
Oh, no, that's not
Would
great.
you unplug it?
Maybe.
Every screen.
What do you do, Rob?
Right where your knee is, there's a panel. Okay. I hit it with my knee for my board meetings.
Oh. Oh. Yep, I did exactly what I said. Or it should be.
He expects to turn it off now.
No, it's on, it's on. Am I good here? You should close.
Yeah. All right, so Stephen and I had a quick conversation about whether or not this is the first or second meeting. I feel like we have talked about this before, maybe not to exactly what the dollar amount is,
Yeah,
but
we-
certainly that it would be above 100,000, I think, so.
Yeah, we had the original people hired for the bonds, did the bonds, bought the property. We've done a lot with it. It's in the, I mean, I don't know if we haven't specifically entered this contract proposal. I said I was gonna go get bids at the last meeting, so it is not as crystallized perhaps, but it's been a common pace for what seems like years.
I mean, it's a board decision. It's
That is in
kinda gray.
abundance of caution. Does somebody want to make a motion to waive the 2 meeting rule just in case?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Bowman. Any discussion from anybody?
Actually, it was
Mr. Harris.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Hoover, sorry. I wrote down Hoover. I did it right there. Sorry. I don't know who I just insulted there, so sorry to both of you. All right.
That's a good
Mr.
one.
Hoover, second by Mr. All right, any discussion from commission members? All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right. Motion to waive the 2 meeting rule out of an abundance of caution. Is approved 5-0. All right. Next motion. Anybody want to make it?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Harris to approve the financial commitment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hoover. Thank you, sir. Any discussion from commission members? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0. Next up, consideration of funding for condemnation settlement on 102 South Madison Avenue.
This is a property that we've been around Greenwood, you know, very well. I'll go back and share a minute. So this is the former Casa Miguel's, then briefly the Between the Bonds, and now long-term vacant structure at Pearl and Madison. It is one of the last kind of non-contributing structures on Madison Avenue between County Line and really Smith Valley. It's been up for sale for a long time, and we thought the ability to come in through the Board of Works and the condemnation power that it has to get the property for approximately, what was the settlement amount? Maybe 259,000. This will allow us to have a beyond one blight elimination, but two, have a old town zone, commercial zone, Madison Avenue frontage that bridges between kind of the village feel of North Madison and the historic district, and the possibilities for the redevelopment commission from parking to whatever development may come are pretty substantial. So we think that this is worth the investment. We have been able to strategically use demolition, rehabilitation, and other grants to really improve Madison Avenue. This will get another step in that direction. Are there any questions?
You say the city's already purchased the property?
No, the city has, we've got
There was 2 appraisals to file condemnation, which came in at 230,000.
yes,
And it's only been filed. It was the decision to look at settling because we've not done any additional court pleadings.
yeah,
The court appointed appraisers have not been out. We've not had to pay any additional
correct.
fees yet.
This is a settlement,
So you're asking for the entire 259,000 from us? Is that what's happening?
correct.
Is it 259 or 269?
250.
So has I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the details right. So has the seller agreed to sell for that amount?
Correct.
And you need this money now, or can you wait till our next meeting for the 2 meeting to roll?
And,
They asked me today when I was gonna get the money, so
Okay.
I think they want the money.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll move the way to meeting rule for this project.
I'll second Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. Harris. Any questions from commission members, comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. 2 meeting rule has been waived. Is there a motion to approve 259,000 of 102 South Mass?
I make that motion with the stipulation. What district is it coming from?
It can be funded by, it's in 3, Central, East, and Fry. My in consultation with the controller and outside financial consultant. I would say probably split between the Central and East. All of them have Madison Avenue as a frontage property system.
Motion has been.
Motion by Mr. Hoover, is there a second? Harris. I actually wrote over this time now. Motion by Mr. Harris.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Hoover. Thank you. I just have to write his name above it.
Only question I have is the price again?
259,000.
Yes, thank you. I'm having a hard time hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, plus if there's closing costs and stuff that necessary problem with that, but I don't think there will be.
There wouldn't be a condemnation.
No. But it's not a condemnation, it's a settlement, so
But it's been filed as a
Oh, okay,
condemnation.
okay, cool.
We're settling the condemnation.
that's good.
You're just gonna have to open up your checkbook if there's an extra anything.
Well, that's what I'm
We'll
here
ask,
for.
we'll ask Sam.
There you go.
Mhm.
Parks Department has agreed to pay closing
Any further discussion from commission members? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0.
I'll see if it can come down.
I have already asked for quotes from 3 demolition contractors, so I hope to be back next week.
I'll see what the.
Take it down there and spring block party.
Sounds like we're time for that too.
I've already taken my sledgehammer to a couple of spots. It's 2 blocks from my house.
All right, consideration of amendment to professional service contract with RLR Associates Inc. to extend
This is-
contract through December 31st,
The
2020.
same one as last year. This is just for on-call. We only use it if there is questions about wayfinding signage or other things in the redevelopment district to meet the sign manual that they produced years ago to keep things consistent. And legal advised me to to extend it through 2022. And I believe the original was not to exceed 20,000.
20,000.
So this is just adding a year to the extension.
Would that be a new 20,000?
No, we haven't. It would just keep that 20,000 commitment.
Carry
that
on.
that left, yeah, for another year, but the contract term will last a year, so. Not any new commitment of money, just an extension of year to draw on.
So moved for approval.
Motion by Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. Moan. Any discussion, commission members? Question?
It was Mr. Rowan a second?
Yes.
Oh, okay, it sounded like it was Mr. King.
My voice over there. 'cause-
Apparently.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, Kevin. Up next, financial report.
We just 2 quick updates in addition to the monthly financial report. Last Friday, I believe the TIP management report was successfully submitted to Gateway. So that was you all had seen previously the more published RDC annual report for 2021. As part of the state's requirements, you also have to provide a management report to Gateway. which is duly supported by two regulating bodies, the Board of Accounts and the Department of Government Finance. So it's been submitted and is now publicly available. And then secondly, as far as just compliance on the horizon, we have slated in May to start looking at the annual assessed value determination. That's the annual determination of the excess assessed value. So we'll be approaching you all to have a decision determination likely at your next meeting. And then additionally, in May, towards the end of the month, we're starting to schedule internal capital improvement plan workshop. So redevelopment department, if you will, has its own seat at the table at that, has its own conversation that a lot of these projects are discussed. To the extent that any of you would like to be a part of that, let us know. We can make that available. Otherwise, once that information is available, we can present it to you in a public meeting. So I have, thank you.
Any questions for Aaron before he gets away? No. Department reports, Mr. Hudson.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Watson.
The one thing I have is related to another annual report. This one is by one clip. Their obligation at this point is only to file a written report. And for last year, they did not file it. And it came to my attention late in the year and talked to Mr. Hopper and contacted Randy Stockland, the principal of One Click. And he has subsequently provided us the written report that was needed for that. And they will be providing their newest required report, which is also their last, the next few months. And so good to see.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Wright. Nothing. Mr. Peely.
First off, I'd like to introduce our new city engineer, Mark St. John. Just started yesterday, April 11th. Glad to have him with us, and hopefully he'll be a great help to us, and we'll probably see a lot more of him in the near future.
Unless it you.
Yes, that's right.
I'm sorry.
Welcome, Mark.
Where did we steal you from?
I was in the consulting world before this. I worked for a firm called Shrewsbury Associates. And there almost 6 years before that, I worked for the city of Franklin.
All right, sounds good.
So this evening, I'm here before you for the Wurstville Road Section 3 project. That's the portion between US Highway 31 and Avert Road. That has been open to traffic now for about 5 to 6 months, I believe, back in November of last year. Prior, you have been presented 6 change orders for this project and have approved those change orders for various items. This evening, I think Amanda sent you the actual change order paperwork last week in an email. And then this evening, I handed out a sheet with a summary of those change orders, tried to give just a brief synopsis of each one of those. So we're here tonight to ask for approval of these 8 change orders. And in the future, we could have possibly 2 to 3 more before the project closes out. Hopefully the additional amounts of those change orders will not be too much, or I think we're maybe around another 100,000 or so, but we're not sure just yet because they haven't been approved through NDOT. So this evening, again, we're asking for approval of these 8 change orders. And the total of those 8 is just over $70,000, as I showed you on that memo that I handed out. And then the total project cost through these change orders is shown at the bottom, a little over $9.3 million, which is about 1.4% over the original contract amount thus far, without including those last 2 or 3 that may come before you before the project is completed. Question, I'll try my best to answer.
Paul, on change order 5 is signing, just those words of dog, like what are we doing there? Does it just arrow?
Yeah, there's some type of arrow to show that job's happening. There's not much lighting that's installed for this project. And I guess the mayor's office has had some
complaints about, especially in the evening, about coming up on those and making that those dog legs.
Yeah, especially when it's raining,
Right,
those are wet.
so that wasn't included in the original design, it was something that was thought about afterwards, and those inquiries.
So they'll be kind of in front of the,
Before you get to those dog legs, yes. If that's your answer.
yes, that's more of it. Like, if, for example, if you're going east on Worsville Road, you're gonna be dog leg being to the left. Right. Where's that, those signage, the arrow's gonna be kind of straight in front of you, hopefully, maybe, so when your lights flash on.
Well, it'll be just off to the side of the road there, yes, yes.
So it won't be like 10 arrows saying, pointing that way
No,
kind of
that's
deal?
not, no, that's not,
Is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's not supposed to be, I mean, that's not.
Okay,
Well, I guess if it's not sufficient, like it's out there, we can
Right.
talk about it again.
there you go. Yeah.
My question is, did all the complaints come from Kevin?
I have very old eyes.
I'm not sure. Yeah, they have. we
Don't
have to
drive
see
by
it
it
anymore.
I'm not sure I've driven it at night when it's raining to really know that what's,
I think
What's
it's
happening?
justified, even if you're used to driving Morrisville Road, seeing that come up, I mean, it is something new that you're not used to.
Especially if there's two cars going there, you gotta make sure that both of them are gonna turn.
Yeah, so no, it's probably a good idea to get them
Okay, I'm okay.
no more questions. All right, is there a motion to approve change orders 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, and 17? I guess it looks like we also need to authorize the mayor to sign for a public agency and Paul to sign as employee of responsible charge.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hoop. Any discussion from commission members? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome.
Anything from the mayor's office?
Mayor's office.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve our April claims docket, the amount of $2,087,478.38.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Discussion from commission members. Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0. Anybody else in the room need us for anything?
Just one quick
Yes, ma'am.
request. As I mentioned prior to the meeting may not occur. In the shuffling of virtual and in-person meetings, I have managed to lose 2 of the nameplates. We only require 3 if you would authorize or say it's consensus okay for me to upgrade your nameplates to the newer version, so everyone will have.
Absolutely. Aye. Yeah.
I was wondering, she walked for a century.
Yeah, yeah. You can go bury these at the old city building in a time capsule. That would be just
We
fine.
can put them at the new sports bar.
There you go. All right, anybody online need anything from us? All right, hearing none, we are adjourned.